Covalent bonding is typically explained as a bond that forms when atoms are shared. In this tutorial, we'll explore what it means and how the process of sharing electrons can hold two atoms together. Before we start explaining how covalent bonds work, let's experiment with two atoms that will form a covalent bond to see what happens. In this box below, a hydrogen atom, try moving the other around to see how they interact with each other. So you can see that the electrons are moving around each hydrogen atom all over the place. Okay, as we move it closer, notice what happens. The other hydrogen atom moves in, and now most of the sharing is in the middle between them. It's not going around in the opposite direction. Before we continue, to be sure to know the answers to the following questions. How is the movement of the electrons different when the atoms are close? What happens if you try to move the atoms very close together? So notice what happens. They start to interact with each other. And when they're very close, they're kind of moving between each other, but only in the middle. Let's look at what happens in a couple of different ways. In the image below, a line has been added to show the attraction that the nucleus on the left has for its own electron, and the atom on the right has the same attraction for its own electron, but it's not being shown. So here is a attraction line. When the two atoms get close enough, we begin to see the nucleus of the left weakly attracting the other atom's electron. When the two atoms get even closer, the nucleus on the left has a strong attraction, both its own electron and the electron from the other atom. At this point, both atoms are attracting both electrons. We can see that the electrons spend almost all of their time between the two nuclei. If you also show the attraction from the other's nucleus, we can see that it's also pulling on both electrons. This is a covalent bond. The atoms are not really sharing electrons as much as they're fighting over them. They are both trying to attract the same electrons, but neither one can actually take them away from the other. This creates a situation with both atoms in which both atoms are pulled together. So let's take a moment to look at the kinds of atoms which form covalent bonds. In which region of the periodic table will you find atoms that attract electrons strongly? And we talked about this yesterday. It's the nonmetals. You got it. Nonmetals tend to be good at taking electrons from other atoms. Covalent bonds form between two nonmetals. Each atom attracts each electron. This pulls the atoms together. Note that hydrogen is considered a nonmetal and will form covalent bonds with other nonmetals.